This is not a zero-sum game. Like, we're all about connecting the right brands with the right 3PLs for them. Like, that's number one. So if anyone ever just wants to chat, like, that's what we do. This is the world that we're in. We want to create that very strong environment where it's a good relationship.
Before we get started with the show, here's a quick word from our sponsor, Global Training Center. As trade compliance professionals, you want to make sure that your procedures and documentation are completed as correctly as possible to avoid any delays and possible fines. We provide a range of trade compliance courses that will fit your needs. From in-person or web training to recorded on-demand courses, we can train one or even thousands on your team through your learning platform or on our portal. We can even customize a private session for your team. Go to globaltrainingcenter.com to find out more.
There's so much stuff happening, and it is unbelievable in transportation, supply chain, import-export compliance, logistics, everything else. The Trump administration has been in just actually not even a full 2.5 months yet. It's probably 2 months and a week maybe. But all that to say, it has been a whirlwind. Whether you like Trump or not, it is just one of those things where everybody's had their best laid out plans, best budget, and whatnot, and everything is flipped upside down. Now, saying that, whenever there's unbelievable change, if you will, whatever, I've seen a lot of stuff, Lalo, that I know that folks are going, woe is me, or, oh, I can't believe this, whatever. I always look at it too. It's like, yeah, but where are the opportunities? I'm looking at some great opportunities out of all of this. But even from a training perspective, I guess Global Training Center and you guys over there have probably gotten inundated with what do I need to take so I can get a crash course in tariffs and whatnot.
No, yeah, that's true. And what we do, and I like to tell people this, is that regardless of what is going on right now in trade, you're not going to understand it or you're not going to get through it if you don't know the foundation, if you don't have a good foundation built underneath it. In other words, if you don't know how to classify a product, or maybe you don't need to go to the extreme of classifying, but understanding the classification of a product, the tariff number, you're never going to get to the why or how they're imposing tariffs on products that you are importing, and what those root rates are, and additional rates and additional rates, and so forth down the line. You kind of need to know that, and the good news is, like, that's what we've always taught. We teach you how to create that and make sure that you do have that good foundation, so that when things like this happen, you at least know immediately, oh, let me go look at the HTS for my tariff number and look at the other columns, not just the first column, and see what's going on with my additional duties or rates or tariffs, et cetera. I totally understand what you're saying, and all of us have been, just rather busy trying to address and help clients with stuff like that. And
to that point, I will say to our listeners, folks, in the midst of a firestorm there or a heated battle, jump in the foxhole, keep your head down for a little bit. It's going to be okay. The sun will go down. It will come back up the next morning, and tomorrow's a new day, and we'll figure it out as we're going through with us. But we're going to get to talk to today with somebody that is leading a third-party logistics company, or a 3PL. I'm really looking forward to this. This is the first time I'm getting to meet Maggie Barnett, or Barnett, excuse me. Is it Burnett or Barnett? Okay. Please forgive me, because my memory is as long as a turtle's tail, and he told me what it was, and I've already messed it up. Barnett. All right. So Maggie Barnett, CEO of LVK, is it logistics or fulfillment? Okay. Okay. All right. This ought to be good, because this is an integral part where so many companies outsource this function, because some have taken it in-house, and then they got to a certain point and they outsource it, then they take it, you get to a certain point and they take it back in house, and then they outsource it again. And then it's like, what are we in the business? Fulfillment or selling the products that they're trying to sell?
Thank you, Andy, Lalo. It's so nice to be here. Really excited to chat with you both.
Thank you, Maggie. Well, before we get started, so I wanted to also mention, aside from being CEO of LVK, I also, of course, did all my little research and digging here, and I saw that you're also COO of Ship Hero, which I guess I come to find out Ship Hero is the parent company of LVK, or something like that is the structure. Maybe you might be able to explain that better. But Ship Hero is a technology company, right, that provides software in warehousing and logistics. I guess it's more warehousing.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Again, my name is Maggie Barnett. Ship Hero, where I'm the COO. Ship Hero is a best-in-class WMS, IMS, OMS. So we help run warehouses. We're in about over 1,000 warehouses now in North America, some in Europe as well, in Australia. So it's great for pick, pack, and ship, guided put away, anything that you need to be more efficient in the warehouse. And then about 7 years ago, we thought, you know what can actually make this product, this tech better? And it's really being in more warehouses. So we opened up a 4PL. That's how we got started first, by just connecting some of our customers who are using our WMS. And then we said, you know what, to really understand the pain of the customer, we need to have our own 3PL. We need a proper fulfillment division. And so we started Ship Hero Fulfillment. We've gone from 0 packages to over 6 million a year, 7 warehouses across 1 million square feet in North America. And we are a best in class at LVK. We're a best in class full service 3PL. So we can help you inbound, but really our bread and butter is direct to consumer, outbound, and then B2B retail replenishment as well. So it's a great service for anyone. And Andy, I think you nailed it right on the head when you said, you know, what do you want to do? Do you want to be in fulfillment, or do you want to sell your product? I always tell brands like sales and marketing, put your energy there. We have this stuff down to a science. So outsource what you don't need to be an expert in. So that's what we do.
All right. So with all this, I tell you what, Maggie, you are phenomenal. Your company is in developing your Ship Hero and your software and what you're trying to do. I give kudos to y'all, literally, to say you're literally putting your money where your mouth is, into stepping into that fulfillment to say, are you really providing a product that is going to meet the needs and avoid the frustrations, if you will, of your clients? And stepping into that realm, you couldn't get any better firsthand knowledge that way, right?
Oh, Andy, you nailed it, because we use this product every day. I can remember when we opened up, this was middle of COVID. I was living in Vegas. I went out there, ended up staying for 3 months to open up our first warehouse. And I was there. I had 20 temps there. It's, middle of COVID. We have so many orders to get out. It's a Saturday, and we were having issues printing labels. And I called up Aaron, I called up Russell, and I said, you guys, we have to fix this. Like, I have 20 people looking at me right now saying, what are we supposed to do? And that is, one, you're just burning money, all those hours, all those paid hours just sitting there. And also, people lose the vibe. Like, you want to keep people moving throughout the day. So being in those pressure cooker moments, having the true knowledge of what it feels like, not just the knowledge, like this is firsthand pain that we have understood. And it's made the product just accelerate so fast, and the iteration process so fast. It's been really cool to see, because I've been at Ship Hero now almost 7 years. So getting to see the evolution of the product has been fantastic.
Well, and the thing too is that you want people to be excited about your product, about your, the system and the processes, because it should be. And here's in system development processes. Now, I'm not a programmer, but I was a system administrator.
Yeah, Andy, it's so true. I'm glad that you've had that firsthand experience where you do have to do that translation, where, a customer will say, I want this. And sometimes you think, okay, but what's the goal? Like, what is the goal? Because we might be able to get you there another way. And many times an engineer might just say, okay, I'll build it that way, without understanding the true goal, and also just user error, because people are people. So doing something 10,000 times a day versus 10 times a day is a very different motion. And I think that's what's so great. Many technology companies go into a customer, they do a design with them, say like, okay, yeah, these 10 packages worked. Well, we have to ship out 10,000 today. So will it work every time? When it breaks, how do we fix it? And it's been very inspiring getting to do it and just learning a lot.
Well, and I'm sure the operations flourished. This is the tech side, though. This is where Lalo comes into play. Man, this guy runs circles around me as far as his knowledge on this. But Lalo, I like what I'm hearing so far in this. I want to get into some of the operations, but
part of what I've been noticing, Maggie, on your, I don't like to use that word that I was creeping, but I was researching. Let's call it that.
I like researching.
Yeah, there
I was researching a lot of the. I did notice that you're talking a lot about the shift in supply chain strategy. You've been talking a lot about how we have been talking about since COVID, especially on. Supply chain resiliency, and we've been talking about how you need to have your backup if country A gets shut down because of COVID, and it could be some other situation, but back then or recently it's been because of COVID. How you need to have suppliers in other areas and everything, but
yeah, of course, Lalo. What we like to say, and again, everyone's different. Every brand has a different hierarchy of needs, whether it's speed, cost, quality, and where their product's made. So everyone kind of has their own analysis that they need to do. And the headline that I always like to really double down on is yet this idea of optionality over optimization. Because for COVID, we were just getting every package out that we could. Every package had to get out. And then there was kind of that, freight, cargo ships, all the rates were going up. Everyone was making money, right? In this industry, everyone was making money. Everyone kind of got a little lazy. And then all of a sudden the COVID bump kind of stopped. That bump started to slow down and everyone thought, optimize, optimize, optimize. I have to save every penny. And so you had private equity, the combination of private equity coming in and buying a lot of brands, and also this kind of end of the COVID bump, and people were scrambling to try to get profitable, and especially with very low volumes going out. And so they were just trying to do razor thin margins at every step of the way with no backup plan. Well, that's not how you can run your business anymore. You do need to have some optionality, and you shouldn't be trying to pinch every penny. Because what's that old saying, penny wise, pound foolish? Because you're going to have to end up airing something in. You're going to have to end up paying those tariffs. So being very flexible and, not trying to just over optimize, not having accountants, I love my accountants and finance team, but we're logicians. Make sure that you can step up and say, it's not about always saving that penny. I'm trying to think about the next 3-5 years and our brand identity. And I loved how you started it out, Andy, with the sun will rise tomorrow. We will get through this. There's going to be a lot. The resiliency muscle is being built big time right now because of all the changes in the whiplash. But that's the headline, Andy and Lalo, is, optionality over optimization and just being resilient.
Well, to your point, let me jump in on that, because you're hitting on something. When you're trying to optimize, hence it's like the finance department is the bean counters are in control, right?
Definitely. We are seeing our customers being e-commerce, think apparel, think shoes. A lot of that comes from China. And over the last 6-12 months, people are going into Vietnam, Indonesia, Bangladesh, because Section 321, the de minimis, was closed from China. So they already knew that that's one kind of, one strike against. So having multiple countries where you can produce items is key, because as we just saw about an hour and a half ago, these new tariffs are coming out and they're big. and they're big and they're different country to country. And that's where it comes down to as well. I know we were talking about the HST codes and what you qualify for. You have to be smart and you have to go to experts around this, and having that redundancy, having multiple countries, and then even looking to in the US, like depending on what it is, again, apparel, lightweight electronics, like there's certain things that are always going to probably be, or not always, but predominantly produced outside of the US. But getting those backup plans, we're seeing it across the board. They have multiple vendors, and they've been putting that in place for the last 6 to 12 months.
I've seen where several years back, regarding, let's say, IT type products and programming, Ireland invested heavily into some developing, companies with IT backgrounds and whatnot. And then, you were talking about the footwear. Well, they're looking at Brazil again and in Central and South America. Now, the one thing that has been an issue in Brazil is they changed their tariffs down there like crazy, having more domestic manufacturing for some of the products. Do you think that's going to make it a little easier for consistency in the supply chain coming up?
I do. I think anytime you don't have to cross a body of water, you know, just the ships, the Houthis, the Suez, like all these things that are out of control sometimes, or not within our control, or can get so quickly backed up. Something doesn't run for 2 hours, we're backed up 2 weeks. So it's just, so I think the idea that if it is in, whether it's Canada, US, or Mexico, you are reducing risk just by taking that one element out of it. When you take distance out, there's one risk is removed. So I think that is like very interesting. And we're seeing, I have an example. I was talking to a friend who has, you guys know 23andMe, for, you can see like your genetics. They have the same thing for dogs. So you can see what the breed is. And they were originally sourcing the swabs from Canada. The potential 25% tariff came into place. That company that they were using in Canada was already setting up a new warehouse in Minnesota. So like it's happening like that. And it's the same, that company is now just going to source from the same original company, but now that company has set up a warehouse in Minnesota. It'll be quicker delivery times. I think the pricing will be around the same because they know it's better than a 25% tariff hit on it. Whether that happens or not, everything's in the air. But the idea is that the manufacturing facility was set up. Like it did incentivize behavior.
And Maggie, and along those lines, you're talking about people, I guess it's companies reshoring and, bringing back to America and or establishing for the first time in the U.S. I know you being in the fashion, footwear realm because of your 3PL. I was looking at or trying to think of what about those that really can't do that. I mean, I'm talking about like H&M, Zara, Shein, who have fast fashion brands or products that their thing is manufacturing at a very low price and bringing it into the U.S. and sometimes taking advantage of that de minimis and or low tariff rates. But again, you just said right now we're about an hour and a half to 2 hours from the President Trump's announcement on his Liberation Day, and of course, there's still a lot to digest on that and decipher and figure out exactly how it's going to affect everybody. But how do you think those type of companies, and not necessarily limited to just the fast fashion, but I mean anything similar, how do you think they will be dealing with the reduction or cut of de minimis or any new tariffs that they might need to be dealing with?
It's a great question on how like the Shein and Temu's, they are so big. They've, their first option was, okay, let's just set up, if you're going to stop the de minimis out of China, we're just going to set up our warehouses in Vietnam. We're going to set up our warehouses in Mexico, which they've done. They're setting up warehouses in the US. They are so big that they can they keep moving. What makes them so different is they were able to gain leverage with the de minimis. That was super helpful with their growth. However, their business model of almost print on demand, in a sense, they're not printing like the old school fashion houses where it's like, well, I hope we sell these 10,000. They're seeing how many people are excited when they're clicking and putting it in their cart, and then they're printing. They have a very good directional, forecasting based on behavior and purchasing. And then they can push those garments out very quickly in those factories, whether that factory is in China, Mexico, or in the US. So they've just completely changed the model of, hey, we don't have to, pre-build and pre-cut all of these articles of clothing. And it's not quite print on demand. It's somewhere in the middle where they have that really good forecast and it's printed quick. And this leads to, quicker delivery time, lower costs because they don't have to account for all of the items that might not get sold. And it's also, better for the environment because you're not just, all those clothes that don't get sold aren't just getting burned, which is what happens a lot with fashion. So that's a whole business model chain. Like they are in a class of their own versus like the SMB mid-market apparel company.
The downside, what they're doing and what's caused some consternation is the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act that was addressing some of this, and the Sheins of the world literally just doubled down. They're using some of that type of forced labor in some of those regions, and the products are, like you said, they're shifting from China to other countries in the warehouses. So that's one of those that, again, trying to look at it and how we're doing it. I just still come back to, if somebody's in business, you're in a retail, especially in the apparel, it is, and I'd love to hear how you're able to track what you've got in your fulfillments and all that and feeding that to these companies that your clients, because apparel changes. You find something hot, you got to jump on it because it's not going to be hot for very long. I don't know what my ignorance here is going to show because I don't know how long the life cycle is on some of these garments, but I know that you got to move quickly. How do you handle that kind of deal to deal and compete with the Sheins and other companies like that?
Andy, it's a great question. And we have created this hybrid model. So there's certain pieces of clothing that we would call evergreen. It's the range, like a trench coat, sweats, things that people are just kind of always going to have on hand, a big shawl, a scarf. They're not as trendy. They're just kind of like your basics, the white t-shirt, the black t-shirt, the navy pant, the navy blazer. Then there's capsules. So those are the quicker ones. Let's say an extra 2,000 SKUs might drop every month or every 3 weeks, which is what we're talking about, the fast fashion. With a hybrid model, you can ocean in with us your evergreen SKUs, not pay too much. We receive those as normal in the US, fulfill from the US. You can air in those capsule items, those very trendy items, and you can be taking pre-orders while they're being aired in. So it's on your website. You're sending us, 2,000 units. You're selling them as while the plane's landing. It gets to our dock, and we're just shipping those orders out right away. And if there's an evergreen item with it, we're just bundling it together. So you're not losing that 10 or 15 days of just like intake, put away. Those orders are going out same day. So you get the best of both worlds, and you can get more complicated by landing in a free trade zone and only clearing that every week versus every day and kind of saving on some of those cash flow items. You can get creative around it. And that's what we've done to be able to have these mid-market apparel companies be able to compete with the Sheins and Temus. So that's kind of what we're looking at, is this hybrid fashion where you get a little bit of the best of both worlds.
All right. So to that point, let me come back around again with the data that you're looking at. How often are you getting with your clients and just reviewing? Let's just review the last 3 months or 6 months or whatever. What are the trends? What worked? What didn't work? I'm sure that they should be trying to bring you in on what their plans are so that you can prepare for that, maybe even advise on some of that kind of stuff. But when you're talking with your clients, what is it that you're showing them and working with them? And then second to that is, What's been the latest in the last, say, 2 weeks of conversations?
There's so much that is exciting about our clients, and we have a diverse client set because we do shoes, we do CPG, we do Momofuku noodles, so supplements. So each customer has kind of a different peak season, right? Most are hitting around Q4, but those discussions are layered throughout the year. So at the very minimum, we're talking, the key accounts director is talking to them on a weekly basis. I'm talking to all customers on a quarterly basis, if not more often when big things are hitting. The biggest thing right now is where to position their inventory. And it could be because of tariffs or just their growth. So we have 2 warehouses in Canada, 5 in the US. Part of the meetings that we have with them, we might say, hey, can you bulk up on inventory? Because we have all of your inventory in Las Vegas. You ship 5 pounds. 60% of the population is the Northeast. If we could move half of that, if not 60% of it in bulk over to our Pennsylvania location, you're going to be saving a ton on shipping. So we go to them with those ideas of, hey, you could add a 3rd node. Why don't you put some stuff in Jacksonville? We see that the Southeast is really hot right now for your products. It's, if it's a college football team maybe, or the SEC, like let's pre-place some of that inventory in a closer node. So you're only paying for zones 1 through 4. You're a FedEx guy, Andy. You get this.
I'm sitting here going, yeah. To our finance people, folks, listen, and if you're in logistics or transportation, sourcing, whatever, listen to what Maggie is telling you. When you're trying to go and trying to, we need to negotiate these contracts and the margins are, razor thin, as you just said. Listen, you don't want to have your vendor barely make a buck here. I mean, seriously, it's because they got to invest in their own people and equipment. This is where a vendor comes into play and becomes more than just a vendor, but more of a success partner, I'll say, in helping you. And this is where that expertise comes into play, where, yes, this is how you can do a win-win and all of that. So this is, Maggie, this is fantastic. I'm loving it.
And I love it because they're saving money, right? They're saving money. Then they can put that into marketing. And then, hey, guess what? We have more orders. And then LVK can ship more orders. So all the boats rise. And I think it's having that idea of long-term vision where, we're a profitable 3PL, where a lot of these tech-enabled 3PLs have just taken on so much debt and they're just subsidized. We are all about being profitable. We're about long-term commitments. We want to sign 2 and 3 year deals because we want to be able to invest in that partnership and start to plan with them. And it makes it more fun. Like, honestly, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be in a commodity business and it can feel like a commodity, but I say, you don't have to make it a commodity. We can grow together and create that value. And so some of that demand gen and placing inventory closer, maybe helping with a partner open up the European market so they can sell more. We'll still ship directly from our warehouses in the US, but like testing out to see if something can work over there. So giving them other revenue opportunities and then also saving costs is what we try to do every time we meet with them because we want them to be successful.
Let's say, okay, Maggie, you're impressive. This is your company. I'm all excited. Now, I want to set up a meeting. What are maybe the 3 top things or whatever that you could say to prepare for this? Here's what we would highly recommend you do to make it as productive as possible.
It's a great question, Andy. So when brands, because I talk to brands all day long, whether they want to work with LVK or I place them with a lot of our Ship Hero 3PL customers, because this is a big pie. This is not a zero-sum game. Like, we're all about connecting the right brands with the right 3PLs for them. Like, that's number one. So if anyone ever just wants to chat, like, that's what we do. This is the world that we're in. We want to create that very strong environment where it's a good relationship. What you need to understand is really what you care about with your customer. What is your customer's expectations? And that comes down to first SLA. Does it need to be there in 1 day, 2 day, 5 days, 7 day? Because many times, if you're already selling on Amazon, they can get it 2 days there. Maybe then your strategy, customers who come directly to my website will do it in 5 days or 7 days. And that's okay because it's on subscription. So really understand your ideal customer profile as a brand and what they need on those SLAs, because 3PL providers can do that better. The second piece to that is, what is the carrier SLA that you're signing up for? Because that comes into cost. If you want something, again, FedEx, if it's going zone 8 and you want it there the next day and it's 10 pounds, that's pricey. So the expectation might be, I have a 10-pound package. I need this spread across the US and I want to do everything ground. It's okay for 2 to 3 days because I don't want to be paying such a multiple on that. So the service level agreement on time to fulfill the order by the 3PL, and then what carrier they're going to give, then what the carrier SLA is, meaning once it hits that truck, when do you expect it at your end customer's door? That to me is like really just level setting in what the expectations are.
I guess the other question I would have is, when you're sitting down with somebody, do you like to meet with, I guess, the sourcing folks, or would you prefer to have a meeting that has your customer service, your systems, your, let's say your logistics and your transportation and all those different factions in there? Is that a more productive meeting for you that way, or keep it simple?
I think the first meetings are just kind of keeping it simple to make sure the initial pricing expectations are in the ballpark. Then we bring everyone in, because our key accounts, our customer service, our tech integrations, if there's some very bespoke ERP, I don't want to agree to something that I don't really understand. And Andy, if there's something around an ERP and some sort of data exchange, I'm going to have my team there. I don't want to be promising something we can't deliver. So when it gets into that second or third meeting, we bring the whole team in to make sure that there's alignment across the board.
Well, and your counterparts, the customer service of the client, it's like, when their client, their end customer is like, where's my package, or where's my garment, or where's whatever, you're feeding them data that they got to have. And that's where Fred Smith, made the statement when it came into the transportation, is that the information about that shipment or package a lot of times is more important than the package itself, because people are making plans based on when you can deliver it. Hey, I'm going out on vacation or out on a hot date, and I was really wanting to have this garment. Where is it? So do I have to go look for something else or whatever? So
agreed. That visibility is, people just want an answer. And we have the tech in our portal. So much of it is self-service that people love that, because they don't have to wait, for an answer. They can look at it at midnight and say, oh, it was handed off. It'll be there tomorrow at 10 a.m. So that portal and having that self-service component and that just transparency, to be quite frank, is huge.
I got to say, man, I could keep talking to you. This is exciting. I mean, it's like makes my blood boil. I'm like, yes, let's keep going. But we've got to cut it off with that. And I will say, I hope, as Lalo said, we need to have you back. I hope that you will come back and talk to us, let's say even in a month or two, after all the dust is settling. Right now, there's dust in the air over all this reciprocal tariffs, and is it going to work? And everybody's gloom and doom, and the Chicken Little syndrome, and it's the sky's falling. And when we come out of this, is it good? Is it bad? Who knows? We'll see. But I hope you will come back and talk to us from your perspective on things.
I'd love to join you all again.
Yeah.
Well, thank you
so much. It was a lot of fun.
Same here, Maggie. Thank you so much.
Folks, I will say we'll have Maggie's contact information with the show notes. Hope you have a great day, and, keep listening to Simply Trade. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us. Simply Trade is brought to you by the generous contributions of Global Training Center. You can follow the show and GTC on LinkedIn or Twitter and other social networks. Make sure you check out the show notes in the description for a full rundown of today's show with all the important links. Also, make sure that you share this with a friend and subscribe on your favorite streaming platform. We really like hearing from you. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to rate and review wherever you listen to this podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the show, or would like to sponsor Simply Trade, or suggest any topic you would like for us to discuss, please contact us via email at simplytrade@globaltrainingcenter.com, or you can DM us on Twitter at simplytradepod. Thank you again for the privilege of your time. Happy trading. Simply Trade is not a law firm or an advisor. The topics and discussions conducted by Simply Trade hosts and guests should not be considered and is not intended to substitute legal advice. You should seek appropriate counsel for your own situations. These conversations and information are directed towards listeners in the United States for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only and should not be substituted for legal advice. No listener or viewer of this podcast should act or refrain from acting on the basis of information on this podcast without first seeking legal advice from counsel. Information on this podcast may not be up to date depending on the time of publishing and the time of viewership. The content of this posting is provided as is. No representations are made that the content is error-free. The views expressed in or through this podcast are those of the individual speakers, not those of their respective employers or Global Training Center as a whole. All liability with respect to actions taken or not taken based on the contents of this podcast are hereby expressly disclaimed.